Hello, everybody, and welcome to the InPower Coaching Coffee Break Talk Show. I am really excited to have as our guest today Dr. Marcia Reynolds, who is an InPower Women blogger, InPower Coaching blogger, and a longtime supporter. We're mutually supportive of each other. And she's joined us today to talk about difficult conversations and what she calls the Discomfort Zone, which is the title of a book she wrote. We'll go into that. And on these talk shows, we cover a variety of topics, both with respect to women in leadership, but also for women and men, just surviving and thriving in the work zone, you know, in the workplace. And we also talk about workplace issues and how to build a workplace that's pro-employee or pro-human, as one of our past guests, Mary Schaefer, likes to call it. And whether you're a leader of a small team or of a large organization, or whether you're in HR, all of us contribute to our workplace. So building a pro-employee, pro-human workplace where men and women thrive is not anyone's particular job, it's all of our jobs. So we come at that from all different angles here. So just real quickly, Mary's going to introduce Marcia before we jump into the interview, but I just wanted to let you know on an administrative note that we have an open seat today. So we encourage you to go ahead and call in if you'd like to join us via video. After, we'll do a brief interview to get the conversation rolling, and then we'll invite anyone in queue. So if you know you want to join, go ahead and join now, and then Mary will bring you in later. You can also participate via chat. And we'll be monitoring the chat, and any questions you have or observations we'll share with everybody so it gets into the recording for sure. So with that, Mary, you want to introduce Marcia and we'll get going?
Yes. So welcome Dr. Marcia Reynolds, president of Co-Visioning LLC. She is fascinated by the brain, especially what triggers feelings of connection, commitment, and possibility. This fascination has led her down many roads as she constantly looks for ways to improve the value of her training, speaking, and coaching. On this journey, she developed 3 areas of expertise: organizational change, coaching, and emotional intelligence. She is able to draw on these areas as she works to help leaders have more effective and meaningful conversations. When leaders have powerful conversations that change people's minds from the inside out, the workplace comes alive with an eagerness to discover what is possible. Dr. Reynolds teaches coaching workshops and leadership classes for large corporations and coaching schools around the world. You can find insightful techniques and examples in her book, or her books, Outsmart Your Brain, Wonder Woman, How High-Achieving Women Find Contentment and Direction. And today we're going to be talking about Marcia's new book, The Discomfort Zone, How Leaders Turn Difficult Conversations into Breakthroughs.
Thank you. Marcia, I want to open up this interview by talking about the title of your book, which is, The Discomfort Zone. Right away, it just sounds like, I don't know if I really want to go there. But then you talk about breakthroughs and how the discomfort zone is somehow an asset to us. It's a positive thing, right? That leads us to breakthroughs. So you do a lot of work on thinking about how the neurology of our mind works and how we can outsmart it and it can outsmart us. So I'm wondering if you can bring all these things together in just a quick summary of how something that feels so uncomfortable can be so important to us. And what does a breakthrough look like when you learn to be comfortable in your comfort zone?
Right. Well, first I want to say, Dana, that it's interesting that a lot of people, when they first see the book, think, oh, it's going to show me how to get rid of discomfort. And then they open it and realize I'm saying, no, you're supposed to create discomfort. And they're like, no. And I even had on Amazon a review saying, I was totally tricked.
Whoops.
But the thing is that we've set up behavioral patterns in our brain to not just to protect us, but to allow us to function. You wake up in the morning and you can't sit there and go, oh, who am I? Where am I? And spend that much time. You have to know these things. And so the brain protects who we think we are and how we see the world, just so we can operate on a daily basis. But because of that, in order to actually make behavioral change requires that we shift who I think I am and how I see the world. But that means we have to break through that protective barrier. That requires a disruption. of some sort. Otherwise, we don't really change. We may shift and broaden a little bit, but we don't make changes until there's like this crack in our ego structure. And we start to think, maybe there is another possibility here. You know, maybe I have been doing something that's hurt me for years, or that it's possible I can be someone or do something different. And the only way to really believe in that is to have, a disruption in the system. And so that's what creating a little discomfort, we only learn through that. It's like I say, the discomfort opens us to learning. It opens us to learning. And that the only time we really learn is in that moment of uncertainty where we're not sure we know the answer. Otherwise, we already know everything.
Well, and the implication there, one of the things I love about this approach is that the implication there is that when you find yourself uncomfortable, you know, your first instinct is it threatens all of those systems you just talked about that tell us who we are and how our world works and all that. So we feel uncomfortable. You know, our first instinct is kind of to withdraw, but one of the benefits of being a conscious human is we have the intellectual and the emotional strength to be able to say, you know, wait a minute, no, maybe I can learn something here and lean into it, and look for that opportunity. Because in that sense, when you do learn to take advantage of it, as you're suggesting, and break through, that means that the discomfort is actually one of your greatest gifts. It's actually there
to say, oh, I'm uncomfortable. This is good. Change the belief. Again, it's just an instant message. Brain says, oh, discomfort, uncomfortable, make it go away.
Right.
Because the brain doesn't like it. To say, oh, thank you, brain, but right now I want to understand it instead of make it go away.
Yes. And so talk a little bit about what you've seen when you've used these techniques, you know, that are in the book, because I know you do workshops on this. I know you do one-on-one. When you see people working with this and having and disrupting themselves to be okay with discomfort long enough to see what the gift is there for them, what kind of breakthroughs do you see them make? You know, what's the benefit of making yourself be in that uncomfortable zone?
Well, you know, mostly the work that I'm doing is with people being comfortable making someone else uncomfortable, you know? So, you know, leaders often, and I want to say not just leaders, but most of us humans avoid uncomfortable conversations. And as soon as we start to feel that the person feels uncomfortable, we jump in to fix them, you know, or make it okay. Oh, it's okay. And so we don't allow them to grow by doing that. So, you know, so part of it is just to be able to be comfortable with their discomfort. That type of work is best done in dialogue. So it's like for me to try to attack my own brain is a very difficult thing. You know, I always say, you know, have you ever tried to tickle yourself? You know, you tickle yourself. You can't do it. Because the brain.
Well, actually, I can on the bottom of my feet.
Yeah. You're very rare. I can't. The brain says, I know what you're doing, and I'm not going to let you. You know, but when somebody else asks you just a question that makes you stop and go, I never thought about that. You know, so it's like one time, one of the most powerful times in my life, my boss, two things he said to me. I was complaining about everybody else, you know, and they all don't work as hard as I do, and, you know, and they're lazy and whatever. What most high achievers are always saying, you know, nobody works as hard as me. And he said to me, he goes, wow, it really seems like everybody disappoints you. And that reflection made me go, and in that moment that I was going, he said, will anyone ever be good enough for you? And it was like just the reflection, holding up the mirror and then asking me about it popped my brain and made me realize what I had been doing for years and holding people to these standards and measuring myself against them and hurting my relationships with people. It changed my life, a reflection and a question. And it doesn't matter whether I like him or not. He did a great thing for me. And so these are the types of conversations, if you really care about making a difference in someone's life, to have the courage to let go of your own discomfort in the moment and just to share what you see and be curious about it.
And I'm gonna just one more time invite other people to join us live if they'd like to. But I love that example because obviously he'd done the work to be comfortable enough in that uncomfortable conversation to be with you and make you uncomfortable for the purposes of, of helping you reflect, right? I mean, he wasn't trying to hurt you. He wasn't trying to be nasty to you. He was trying to help you. And that intention, bringing that intention into the discomfort zone, in my experience, is huge.
It's huge. If otherwise, people won't trust you. So,
and then you don't trust yourself because you're just fishing around and you're like, I'm going to hurt this person if I'm not careful.
Right. But if you go into the conversation, Dana, exactly what you said, that I'm there to help this person and I care. I care about this person. That energy, they feel that your intentions are good and that you stay calm and you don't, get scared. It makes all the difference in what you say.
Yeah. I want to bridge us into some discussions that you and I have had over time about some of the differences that men and women have in the discomfort zone. And, I think it was your first book. It was where I found you and we bonded, was Wonder Woman.
Second.
Is that your second one? What was your first one?
Outsmart Your Brain.
Oh, I had it reversed. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
You write such brilliant stuff. But Wonder Woman, you were looking at women in the workplace specifically, and I know that that's a specialty of yours. It's certainly something we care about here at InPower Women. Right. Can you talk a little bit about your observations about how men and women experience the discomfort zone similarly and differently?
Yeah. Well, actually, there's research that says that women are actually a little bit better at confronting and being okay with discomfort by experience, by learned behavior. We tend to, we're much more open with our friends, and sharing things that bother us. And then those of us
willing to be vulnerable in a safe environment. Yes.
Well, and to have those conversations and then, oftentimes really it does come down to women being the ones that have the conversation with their children. So we have more experience. But what that says is it's a learned behavior. It's not like we're born with it. It's a learned behavior. So being able to be comfortable, to stay present when we're uncomfortable, because I'm not saying make it go away, just notice it. And say, wow, to yourself, I'm uncomfortable and I'm okay with that. So all of us can do that. And we all know men that can do it as well. Again, because it's a learned behavior. I just gave you an experience of my boss who was a man. So, but to say that men confront more than women, it's not true. The research proves that out to be wrong. They avoid more than women. So we all need to work on that.
Well, and I think that point is so important because it actually puts some other research into a slightly different light for me, which is when you talk about being able to be in the uncomfortable zone as a learned behavior. We all know the research about young girls and how, early on, they're just as good at math, they're just as good at science, and something happens in middle school where they begin to learn.
Puberty. It's called
puberty. Exactly. Everything goes wrong at puberty. We won't go there. But they begin to learn through social pressure and all kinds of messages and who knows what, that it's uncomfortable for them to be good at math. It's uncomfortable for them to be ambitious and challenge the boys, Or maybe they don't learn that. They're on a sports team. They're with a coach, they have parents who are like, go get them, get that guy.
Right.
And whatever it is, it's in those formative years that they begin to learn the behavior about what's comfortable and what's uncomfortable. And I'm sure the same is true for boys. I mean, I'm not trying to single out girls, but we do know that in the trajectory of where girls learn some of their discomforts, they may be comfortable, taking on issues with their kids, but in the workplace, they're not comfortable, going into a difficult conversation with their boss. A lot of that is learned early on, and it is learned, to your point.
Well, and I want to say that's also, there's the range, because in Wonder Woman, my intention, that was my doctoral research, was to look at what are the specific challenges of smart, strong women. And so the stereotype is that women don't speak up. The truth is many of them do. And they get in trouble for it because it's not the stereotype, so who are you and what are you doing? And so there are many women that do, and the learning for them is, how do you do that in a diplomatic way? So many of the women that I coach who are smart, strong women in the workplace, we have to talk about the impact they have with what they choose to say, so because I have many women that, like, for example, I had this woman who saw herself. I do a lot of work with archetypes, as you know. She was the efficiency expert, and people should do things the right way. And why weren't they doing that? Well, she was a Dutch woman working in a Latin American region, where we're not quite so into efficiency as much as they were relationship. And so the impact of her speaking up was not good, and so when we were looking at what was it she wanted to achieve, she wanted to be seen as a leader. She had to shift her view of what the people in that part of the world saw as a leader, and once she shifted her view, she certainly could be that person, but she had to shift her view of who I think I am in this place, and what the world needs, what these people want, and even to have conversations and to be curious. So it really is, it's not just, it's to look at, if you have a fear of speaking up, what's the consequences? And if you don't have a fear, are you delivering in the right way that will have the right impact?
Yeah. And I want to go back to something you said, and because I think it's so important, and it goes to a question that I've had personally for this for a long time, but I have started to see some of the solution, in my own coaching work, work like magic, I have to say. I'm wondering if you have a similar experience, and that is that you're working with somebody, or you are somebody, and you're kind of like, now that you're aware of the discomfort zone, it's even more frightening, right? because it's like, oh, I just thought I was uncomfortable and just not doing it. Well, now I have to go there. And one of the challenges that I have found, and I find my clients have, and everybody does, which is, how do you get over the hump to go be there? And I go back to something you said before about belief and intention, which is that when you believe that you can survive the discomfort zone, when you believe that this is work you're doing on yourself and for the benefit of others, and that you commit to figuring it out, right? It's like you don't know the script for how this is going to go in the discomfort zone when you go in, but you believe that you're doing it for the right reasons. You have an intention to support and help and care for the other person. Right. And trust that belief and that intention. It's almost like having a light in the dark, because you go in there, you don't know how I'm going to start this conversation, but you focus on that intention. You focus on that belief that this will take you to a better place, even if it's in a culture you don't really fully understand, even if it's with a person you don't know very well. And somehow or another, by having that belief and looking for how to make this beneficial for everyone involved, it's like the light just shines, and you can see that question you should ask the person, or that thing you should not say, or whatever. And somehow you find your way through, and it does take some practice, but people, when they don't, they're afraid to go in there, but this this belief and this intention seem to be the thing that helped them.
To remember your purpose. You know, I often ask people in leadership roles, what is your purpose of being a leader? You know, are you really there to help people to grow, you know, or just get the job done? And because people often say, you know, they were called to be a leader. But then the fear blocks them. Or even, you know, the coaches. I was reading some research this guy did recently on the greatest fear of coaches is that they're going to hurt somebody. But my coach always says, well, nobody ever died from coaching.
We hope.
Right. But that's the thing. When we go into uncomfortable conversations, it's not just the fear that I'm going to be uncomfortable and I'm going to react badly, but that fear of that I'm hurting the person I'm with. So like leaders not wanting to have difficult conversations where they need to give some good feedback. You know, it's not bad feedback. Again, looking at our language that the person needs to hear in order to grow. So again, remembering, are you there to help them? You know, or are you just taking care of your own discomfort? So when I started to write the Discomfort Zone, I went to my editor and I said, you know, I think I need to write a coaching book because coaches just aren't moving into challenge. They back off. And he said, write it for leaders. The coaches will buy it. And I thought it's true, but it's interesting when I teach, you know, the coaches, yeah, help me with this. But the leaders are like, oh, I'm not so sure I want to do that. So you're absolutely right. How you started this conversation, Dana, with that, discomfort. I don't know if I want to go there. To even stop and ask yourself, why not? Why not?
Well, and in coming into the end, I want to bring two things together that I think are really critical to this, and that can help people become comfortable in the comfort zone. So, and you brought up the topic of fear. That's that sense that, you know, I don't know how to go there. You know, it's great for you guys to say this, right? But you know, how do I really do it? Which is why you wrote the book. And the book does give a lot of very specific examples and suggestions. And it's like, it's not quite a recipe, but it's pretty detailed about, you know, how to go through these conversations. And I want to encourage people to buy the book. We're going to make that really easy because we're combining it with one of our offerings, which I find is the thing that gets in the way of people wanting to go in the difficult conversation, which is they get triggered. They're afraid. You know, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired, or I'm going to get sued, or, I mean, you know, they make this story in their head around that fear that triggers them into such an emotional state of uncomfort that they can't go into that uncomfortable zone with the other person. So we have a mini course to help you get rid of those triggers, to find the emotional freedom to go into the discomfort zone and be effective. And, you know, we've put these together in an offer that lets you get a signed copy of Marcia's book. So you really have all the tools you need to be emotionally free to go into these situations and then become skilled at managing yourself in the discomfort zone. But I'm wondering, Marcia, if you can talk a little bit about, you know, that triggered state, you know, what you observe when people are trying to get ready to go there.
Right. Well, you know, the work around identifying triggers is physical work. You know, people give way too much credence to my thoughts. But even when you say that, oh, change your thoughts, change your behavior, no, you don't. You have to shift your emotion first. And yes, you have to think yourself into feeling a certain way. But it's like when you're driving and you say, and everyone's making you crazy, and you say, oh, be calm, be patient. Well, you know, last like... But if you put on some music and look up at the sky and see the birds and you feel calm, you can be calm. Yeah. So in order to identify your triggers, you're going to feel it and you're going to see me go like this. But everyone feels their emotions in different places. But fear, anger, disappointment, frustration are physical reactions. They affect us, and the body instantly secretes adrenaline and different things to protect us, to either shut down, retreat, or fight or flight. And then you have thoughts. So if you can catch, your heart beating a little fast, your breathing slow down, that pit in your stomach, I'm a fighter, so I'm a, if you can feel that, or, just the tightening up in your body, and just say, what is that? What is it that my brain, thought was a threat here? And is it true? Because again, it's either somebody's trying to do something to you, or it's possible it's going to happen. So I'm going to have this uncomfortable conversation and it's going to be a disaster. And so I tighten up. So you take a breath and just say, what's going on here? What is it that I'm afraid is going to happen? Or what did I think this person just did to me? Is that true? And what is it I need to do about it? So the first thing about emotional triggers is to start learning how to key into your body. The quicker you can catch the trigger physically, the quicker you can breathe, release it, and implant, this is how I want to feel in this moment. And then ask yourself, what's really going on?
I love that advice. And it puts thinking in what I think is the right relationship, which is it's a clue. Like if you're so out of touch with your feelings, which many of us are, the thought is a clue. I'm upset. Okay, fine. But to your point, don't stop there. Take it on down. Find the rest of what's really happening.
Right. Because it will control you if you don't.
Well, exactly. And actually to that point, the lesson that we're offering, with your signed copy of the book, I have given that lesson to many people and they struggle with it until they realize, wait a minute, I'm not letting myself actually feel it. I'm saying I'm angry, but they're not feeling the anger. And the minute they allow themselves to just want to punch somebody in the face or, scream, and the minute they get there, then they begin to move. That's when it begins to move. So I'm always like,
Right.
Yeah, I'm like, go ahead, yell.
Exact. Say it. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm disappointed. And then you can get to what's next. If you stuff it, you just fill the garbage up, and somehow it's going to overflow and probably at the people you love,
Right. And that's the thing about triggers is they get buried and then they get triggered when you can't control it, and the outcome is out of your control, and that's why you want to
absolutely
release them, and then not only are you sort of in a calmer place, generally you can get yourself to that place of calm when you recognize it, but then you can be intentional about saying, what, I need to be in an uncomfortable conversation, I need to initiate it, and you're fully you're emotionally free to go do that without worrying about getting all triggered up again.
Right. So you focus on that you care about the person and choose. I always say choose one keyword. I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to have courage. Just one thing.
Yeah. Set your intention on that definition of yourself. Well, we believe it or not, we used up an entire half hour, which we have to do this again because this was great.
I'd love to.
And I feel like we just scratched the surface. So tomorrow, your post on emotional triggers will go up on InPower Coaching, and you can go to on the site there. There's a link for the detriggering package with the Discomfort Zone, so you can get a signed copy of Marcia's book at a very good savings for being an InPower Coaching member. And I'd just like to thank you again, Marcia, so much for being a partner. I love all your work. I love working with you, and I love having you on the site. I just really appreciate your time here to share with us. And I would also invite everybody who's watching this on the recording to go ahead and join us in the forums and keep the conversation going about this week's episode or any of the others that we have there. And with that, and thank you, Mary, again, for making all this happen. We'll go ahead and close out, and we'll see you on the forums, and we'll see you next week at 1:00 Eastern on Tuesday. Thank you all so much.
All right. Thank you. Bye.